Miss, the first-class meal service is for first-class passengers only. I am a first-class passenger, seat 3A.
Black billionaire girl denied first-class meal. What followed shocked the airline. Miss, the first-class meal service is for first-class passengers only. I am a first-class passenger. Seat 3A. I've already served everyone in first class. You weren't on my list. Can you check again? I'm Amara Chen, seat 3A. Sweetheart, I know my passengers. The gentleman who booked 3A specifically requested the vegetarian option for his daughter. You don't look like his daughter. That's because I'm not his daughter. I'm the one who booked this seat. With whose credit card? Look, I don't know how you got into this cabin, but I'm not serving you until we verify you're actually supposed to be here. So either you can wait quietly, or I can call the captain and we can handle this officially. Then call him. Because I paid $2,847 for this seat, and I'd like my meal. What you just heard was a 22-year-old woman being denied a meal she paid for. A veteran flight attendant who saw a young black woman in first class and decided she must have snuck in. But what the flight attendant didn't know was that this passenger wasn't just anyone. And she definitely didn't know that 3 other passengers were recording every word. You heard the moment she was denied service. Now you're going to hear who she really is. And witness the moment the airline's CEO called her personally. If you've ever been judged by how you look instead of who you are, you need to see how this ends. Her name is Amara Chen, 22 years old. And if you looked at her that night at San Francisco International Airport, you'd never guess she was worth over $300 million. She was wearing a faded Howard University hoodie with a small bleach stain on the left sleeve. Ripped jeans from actual wear, not from a boutique. Beat-up black Converse with the sole separating on the left foot. An old North Face backpack covered in pins from tech conferences. The only hint of wealth was a delicate gold necklace. Her father had given it to her on her 18th birthday. Michael Chen, the man who adopted her when she was 3, when she was in foster care, and he was a 35-year-old software engineer who decided he wanted to be a father. Michael Chen was Chinese-American. Amara was black. From the moment he brought her home to his small Mountain View apartment, he'd never treated that fact as anything other than irrelevant. She was his daughter. That was all that mattered. But the world didn't always see it that way. Amara grew up surrounded by computers and code and her father's quiet encouragement. She learned to program at 8. Built her first app at 12. Got accepted to Stanford at 17 with a full scholarship. And at 19, while her classmates worried about midterms, Amara created something that would change her life forever. An AI-powered investment app that could predict market trends with unprecedented accuracy. She called it Elevate AI. By 20, a major tech company had acquired it for $340 million. The money hit her account on a Tuesday. By Wednesday, Forbes put her on their 30 under 30 list. TechCrunch wanted exclusive interviews. Venture capital firms flooded her inbox. Amara said no to almost all of it. She finished her degree. Took one interview with a small business publication focused on minority entrepreneurs. Then she took that money and started the Elevation Fund, a venture capital firm with one mission: invest in minority-owned startups that traditional investors overlooked. She started with $200 million. Within 2 years, her portfolio companies had a combined valuation of nearly $900 million. She had a gift for seeing potential where others saw risk. But despite her wealth, Amara still lived in a rent-controlled Palo Alto apartment. Still shopped at Target. Still ate at the same taco truck she'd loved as a student. She didn't have social media. Didn't wear designer clothes. Didn't drive a luxury car. She had a 10-year-old Honda Civic her father helped her buy at 16. Amara Chen was a billionaire who lived like a college student. And she preferred it that way. On this particular night, November 14th, she was at SFO Gate 84, waiting to board a red-eye to New York. She had 3 pitch meetings scheduled. A black woman in Atlanta building a natural hair care app. A Latino man in Brooklyn creating affordable housing technology. A disabled veteran in the Bronx developing accessibility software. These were the companies Amara invested in. The ones that got passed over because they didn't fit the traditional mold. She needed to be sharp for those meetings. So she'd booked first class. Seat 3. $2,847. She'd selected vegetarian pasta when she booked. The booking had been made through her father's credit card account. They shared some accounts for convenience. He'd helped her book it because she'd been in meetings all day. But the ticket was hers. The seat was hers. The meal was hers. At 10:15 p.m., Amara arrived at gate 84 with AirPods in, scrolling through pitch decks on her iPad. She was exhausted. 7 meetings. 12 investment proposals reviewed. A call with her lawyer. Her eyes hurt from screens. Her back ached from conference rooms. She just wanted to board, eat her pasta, maybe watch a movie, and sleep for the 4 hours and 37 minutes to JFK. She approached the gate agent, a woman in her 50s with perfectly styled hair and a professional smile. Amara held out her phone with her mobile boarding pass. The agent scanned it. The scanner beeped. The agent's expression changed. Just slightly. Surprise, then suspicion. "This is first class?" Amara nodded, not removing her AirPods. She'd learned that sometimes it was easier to pretend she hadn't heard the question. The agent scanned again. Frowned at her screen. Looked at Amara. Looked at the screen. Looked at Amara again. Finally, she waved her through. But Amara felt her eyes following her down the jet bridge. This wasn't new. This happened almost every time she flew first class. The double takes. The extra scrutiny. The barely concealed surprise that a young black woman in a hoodie would be in premium cabin. Amara was used to it. She didn't like it, but she was used to it. She stepped onto the plane. The flight attendant at the door was a woman in her 40s with auburn hair in a neat bun. Her name tag read Sarah Matthews. She had the polished look of someone who'd been doing this job for decades. "Good evening, welcome aboard." Sarah's greeting was warm, professional, until she actually looked at Amara. The smile froze. Her eyes traveled down, taking in the hoodie, jeans, worn sneakers, old backpack. When her eyes came back up, the warmth was gone. "Can I see your boarding pass?" Amara held out her phone. Sarah looked at it longer than necessary. Her lips pressed thin. "Seat 3. Her tone was flat now. No warmth. No welcome. Amara moved past her into first class. 8 seats in a 2-to-2 configuration. Rows 1 through 4. She found 3. Window seat. She'd specifically chosen it because she liked leaning against it when she slept. She settled in, stowed her backpack, pulled out her laptop. Around her, other passengers settled in too. A businessman in 3B already on a phone call. An older couple in row 1. A woman in her 60s in 2A reading a hardcover book. Another traveler in row 4. Amara was the youngest person in the cabin by at least 20 years. And the only black woman. Another flight attendant appeared, younger than Sarah, with kind eyes and an easy smile. His name tag read Jason. "Good evening. Can I get you something to drink before takeoff? Champagne? Orange juice? Water, please." Coming right up. He brought it with a smile. No questions. No second glances. Just service. But Amara could see Sarah watching from the galley. Could see her whisper something to another attendant. Could see the way her eyes kept returning to seat 3A. Amara opened her laptop and tried to focus. She had a due diligence report to review. But she couldn't concentrate. There was a familiar knot in her stomach. The one that said, "Something's coming." The plane pushed back at 10:52 p.m. Took off at 11:14 p.m. The seatbelt sign turned off at 11:37 p.m. Amara worked for the first hour. But eventually her eyes started to blur. She closed her laptop. Leaned her head against the window. The cabin was dark except for a few reading lights. She was hungry. Really hungry. She'd skipped lunch, grabbed a protein bar at 3 p.m., nothing since. The vegetarian pasta was going to taste so good. It was 12:47 a.m. when the cabin lights came on for meal service. Amara sat up, rubbed her eyes. Around her, other passengers stirred, folding away laptops, pulling down tray tables. And then Sarah appeared with the meal cart. If you believe everyone deserves to be treated with basic dignity regardless of how they look, hit that subscribe button right now. Because what happens next will make you question everything about how we judge people. Sarah started at the front. Row 1. The older couple. "Good evening. For dinner we have herb-crusted beef medallions with roasted vegetables, or pan-seared salmon with lemon butter sauce. What can I get for you? The man chose beef. The woman chose salmon. Sarah served them with practiced efficiency, pouring wine, offering pepper, making sure they had everything. Then row 2. The woman with the book. And for you, ma'am? I'll have the salmon, please. Excellent choice. Sarah plated it beautifully. Added a side salad. A warm roll. Poured white wine without being asked. Row 3. Sarah wheeled the cart between the seats. Turned to the businessman in 3B. And for you, sir? We have the beef medallions or the pan-seared salmon. I'll take the beef, medium rare. Perfect. And to drink? Red wine, thank you. Sarah prepared his meal with the same care. Plated it, poured his wine, offered pepper, made small talk. And then she turned to Amara in 3A. Her expression changed. The professional warmth disappeared. She looked down at her list, frowned, checked it again. And you'll be having? She paused, looked at Amara. I'm sorry, what's your name? Amara looked up from her phone. Amara Chen. I pre-ordered the vegetarian pasta. Sarah's eyes narrowed slightly. Chen? I have a Chen on my list, but... She trailed off. But what? The reservation note says the passenger specifically requested vegetarian for his daughter. Yes, I requested vegetarian. You requested it? Or someone requested it for you? Amara felt the familiar knot tighten. I made the reservation. I selected the meal. Is there a problem? The booking shows it was made by a Michael Chen. That's my father. We share some accounts. But I made this booking myself. Sarah's eyebrows raised. Your father is Michael Chen? The way she said it. The tone. The implication. Yes, Amara said, keeping her voice patient. He adopted me when I was 3. Can I please have my meal? Sarah didn't move. I need to verify this. The meal service is only for confirmed first-class passengers. I am a confirmed first-class passenger. I'm sitting in seat 3. Anyone can sit in a seat, sweetheart. The businessman in 3B stopped cutting his beef. The woman in 2A turned around. The cabin had gone quiet. I'm going to need to see your boarding pass and ID. Amara felt her heart rate pick up. But she kept her face calm. Pulled up her mobile boarding pass. Showed it to Sarah. Amara Chen. Seat 3, first class. She pulled out her wallet. Showed her California driver's license. Amara Michelle Chen. Her Palo Alto address. Sarah barely glanced at them. Digital boarding passes can be transferred. Do you have your credit card? The one used to purchase this ticket? Amara's jaw tightened. She pulled out her American Express Platinum. The name embossed in silver, Amara Chen. She held it out. Sarah looked at it. This doesn't prove you booked the ticket. Just that you have a card with this name. The cabin was completely silent now. Every passenger watching. What exactly are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything. I'm following protocol. First-class meals are expensive, and we need to ensure. Ensure what? That I didn't sneak into first class to steal a $40 pasta dish? The words hung in the air. Jason, the younger flight attendant, appeared. Sarah, I can verify the manifest if you... Sarah cut him off. I've got this, Jason. She turned back to Amara. I'm going to serve the other passengers first. You can wait here while I confirm with the gate. You're not going to serve me? Not until I verify your ticket. And Sarah wheeled the cart away. Amara sat there, watching as Sarah moved to row 4. Smiled at those passengers. Asked their preferences. Served their meals. Poured their wine. Offered dessert menus. Every single passenger in first class. Except Amara. She sat in 3A with an empty tray table while everyone around her ate. The smell of food filled the cabin. The sound of silverware on plates. The businessman next to her cutting his beef. The woman in front with her salmon, sipping wine. And Amara sat there with nothing. Her stomach growled. She pressed her hand against it, embarrassed. Her face felt hot. She could feel people looking at her. Some sympathetic. Some curious. All witnessing her humiliation. The woman in 2A leaned over her seat. This is absolutely ridiculous, she whispered. Miss, would you like some of my... Ma'am, Please don't share your meal. Sarah's voice was sharp. She'd returned, standing in the aisle, arms crossed. Why on earth not? The woman's voice rose. She's a passenger. She has a ticket. She's sitting in an assigned seat. Why hasn't she been served? Until we verify her ticket, she's not entitled to first-class service. The businessman in 3B pulled out his phone, held it at an angle, screen facing away but camera pointing at the scene. He started recording. A woman in 4A did the same. This is insane, the businessman muttered. Are you serious right now? Sarah ignored him. Turned back to Amara. Miss, I'm going to need you to remain calm. If you cause a disruption, I'll have to call the captain. Amara hadn't moved, hadn't raised her voice, hadn't done anything except sit in her assigned seat and ask for her meal. I am calm. I'm sitting in my seat, waiting for the meal I paid for. I've shown you my boarding pass, my ID, my credit card. I've answered your questions. What else do you need from me? Sarah's face flushed. I need you to understand that we have protocols. When someone's ticket is questionable, my ticket isn't questionable. My name is on the manifest. I'm in my assigned seat. The only thing that's questionable here is why you're treating me differently than every other passenger in this cabin. The cabin was silent. Everyone is watching now. Even passengers who'd been sleeping had woken up. Sarah, maybe we should just... Jason tried again. Protocol is protocol. Then get the captain, the woman in 2A said firmly. Get him right now. Sarah's face went red. Fine. I'll get the captain. She stormed toward the cockpit. Amara sat there, hands folded in her lap. She could feel her heart pounding, could feel the sting of tears behind her eyes but refused to let them fall. She'd been here before. Not exactly here, but close enough. The assumptions, the extra scrutiny, the burden of proof that seemed to only apply to her. Followed in stores. Security called at her own apartment building. Stopped by campus police at Stanford who wanted to know why she was in the engineering building at 2 a.m., even though she was a student. But this, being denied a meal she'd ordered while everyone watched. This was a new level of humiliation. The woman in 2A touched Amara's arm gently. Honey, I'm so sorry. This is wrong. This is so wrong. Amara nodded, didn't trust herself to speak. The businessman leaned over. I'm recording this. I'm going to post it. People need to see what you're doing. Another passenger from row 5 stood up. Excuse me, I'd like to file a complaint. This is discrimination. Plain and simple. The cabin erupted in whispered conversations. Some defending Amara. Some watching in uncomfortable silence. But all witnessing. And Amara sat there, waiting, while her stomach growled and the smell of food she couldn't have filled the air. If this story is making your blood boil, smash that like button. Because this isn't over. Not even close. The cockpit door opened. Captain Robert Hayes stepped out. He was in his mid-50s, with silver hair and the kind of authoritative presence that comes from decades of flying. He wore his uniform perfectly. He walked with purpose, his expression neutral but alert. Sarah met him at the front. She spoke in an urgent whisper, but nearby passengers could hear fragments. She's claiming to be the Chen on the manifest. The booking was made by a man. She can't prove. I followed protocol. Captain Hayes held up his hand. Sarah stopped talking. He walked past her, down the aisle, directly to seat 3. Every eye in the cabin followed him. Good evening. I'm Captain Hayes. I understand there's a question about your ticket? Amara looked up. Her face was composed, but her eyes were tired. Not from my end, Captain. I booked seat 3. I'm sitting in seat 3. I have my boarding pass, my ID, and my credit card. I've shown all of them to your flight attendant. And I'd like the meal I pre-ordered 2 weeks ago. Captain Hayes nodded slowly. May I see your identification and boarding pass? Amara handed them over. She'd shown them twice already. Captain Hayes examined her driver's license carefully. Looked at the photo. Looked at her face. Read her name. Her address. Her date of birth. Then he examined her boarding pass. Every detail. The confirmation number. The seat assignment. The flight number. He pulled a tablet from his pocket. Tapped through screens. His expression was focused, methodical. He was checking the manifest. The cabin was completely silent. No one was eating anymore. Everyone watching. Captain Hayes looked at the tablet for what felt like a long time. His eyebrows raised slightly. Then he looked at Amara. Then at Sarah. Her name is on the manifest. Seat 3. Amara Chen. Pre-ordered meal, vegetarian pasta. Sarah opened her mouth. But Captain, the booking was made by a Michael Chen. Yes, I see that. And? He didn't say it loudly. Didn't need to. The question landed like a weight. She claims that's her father, but what, Sarah? The question hung in the air. Sarah faltered. I just thought. It seemed unusual that what? Captain Hayes's voice hadn't changed. Still calm. Still professional. But there was steel underneath. I didn't mean, I was just being careful about what specifically? Sarah couldn't answer. She looked around the cabin, searching for support, but found only passengers staring at her. Captain Hayes turned back to Amara. Miss Chen, I apologize for this experience. You are absolutely entitled to your meal and every service we offer. Your ticket is valid. Your seat is correct. And you should have been served an hour ago. He turned to Jason. Jason, please get Miss Chen her vegetarian pasta. And whatever else she'd like. Complimentary wine. Dessert. Whatever she requests. Yes, Captain. Captain Hayes turned to Sarah. His voice dropped lower, but nearby passengers could still hear. Sarah, I need to speak with you in the galley. Sarah's face went from red to pale. She followed Captain Hayes to the galley. The curtain was pulled, but voices carried. Do you have any actual evidence of fraud? Any evidence at all? The booking name. Her name is on the manifest. Her ID matches. Her boarding pass is valid. What protocol, specifically, requires you to deny service to a passenger who has provided all required documentation? Silence. Did you ask any other passenger to prove their relationship to the person whose name was on their booking? Silence. Did you demand to see any other passenger's credit card? Silence. Did you deny any other passenger their meal while you investigated their ticket? No, but Sarah, in my 15 years as a captain, I have never had to intervene in a meal service because a flight attendant decided, without any evidence whatsoever, that a passenger didn't belong in the seat they'd paid for. Do you understand the position you've put this airline in? More silence. You will serve Miss Chen her meal. You will apologize. And when we land, you and I will be having a much longer conversation with the flight operations manager. Do I make myself clear? Yes, Captain. The curtain pulled back. Sarah emerged, her face blotched red, her hands visibly shaking. She avoided looking at anyone as she went to prepare Amara's meal. Captain Hayes returned to row 3. Spoke quietly to Amara. Miss Chen, again I apologize. What you experienced was unacceptable. If you choose to file a formal complaint with the airline when we land, you absolutely should. I'll be filing my own report. Amara nodded. She didn't trust herself to speak yet. Captain Hayes returned to the cockpit. 5 minutes later, Sarah appeared with a tray. She set it down on Amara's table without making eye contact. Your meal's vegetarian pasta, a side salad with balsamic dressing, a warm roll with butter, a glass of water, and a small chocolate dessert Amara hadn't ordered but assumed was part of the apology. Amara looked at the food. She'd been so hungry an hour ago. Starving. Her stomach had been growling. Now she felt nothing. The humiliation had killed her appetite. The food looked perfect, professionally plated, but she couldn't imagine eating it. Still, she picked up her fork. Took a bite. It tasted like nothing. Like cardboard. Like shame. Around her, the cabin had returned to some semblance of normalcy. Passengers finished their meals. Some requested coffee. Some reclined to sleep. But Amara could feel their eyes on her. The sympathetic glances. The discomfort. The woman in 2A turned around. Honey, you should sue them. Seriously. The businessman in 3B leaned over. I got the whole thing on video. If you need it, I'll send it to you. That was insane. Amara just nodded. Took another bite of pasta. forced herself to swallow. If she spoke, she might cry. And she refused to cry. Not here. Not after they'd already watched her be humiliated. So she ate in silence. Bite after bite of food she couldn't taste. While the cabin lights dimmed and other passengers settled into sleep. And in the galley, Sarah stood with her back to the cabin, shoulders hunched, while Jason quietly took over the rest of the service. Hit subscribe if you think what happened to Amara was wrong. Because the story gets even bigger from here. The plane touched down at JFK at 6:47 a.m. Eastern Time. The cabin lights came on. Passengers stirred, stretched, gathered their belongings. Amara packed up her laptop slowly. She was exhausted but wired, that strange combination of having not slept but being too anxious to feel tired. As passengers began to deplane, the businessman from 3B stopped at her row. "Hey," he said, looking slightly embarrassed. "I posted that video. The one I took. I hope that's okay. People need to see what happened." Amara felt her stomach drop. "You posted it where?" He showed her his phone. "Twitter." The video was already at 89,000 views. She watched it on his screen. Could see herself sitting there, hands folded, face calm but eyes tired. Could hear Sarah's voice. "Until we verify her ticket, she's not entitled to first-class service." Could see the other passengers' faces, some sympathetic, some shocked. The caption read, "Flight attendant refuses to serve black passenger in first class. Demands proof she belongs." This is 2024. This is still happening. Hashtag first class while black. "I hope you're okay with it," the businessman said. "But honestly, even if you're not, I wasn't going to take it down. What she did was wrong." He walked away before Amara could respond. The woman from 2A stopped next. Squeezed Amara's shoulder. "I posted about it too. On Facebook. Linked to his video. Honey, you should sue them." Then the woman from 4A. "I put it on TikTok. I'm sorry, but it already has like 300,000 views. Everyone's on your side." 300,000 views. Amara deplaned in a daze. Walked through the terminal toward baggage claim. Her phone had been on airplane mode. She turned it back on. It started buzzing immediately. And didn't stop. 47 missed calls. Over 200 notifications. Text messages flooding in. Her father. "Amara, why are you on the news? Call me immediately." Her business partner. "Are you okay?" CNN just called asking for a comment. Her lawyer. "We need to talk. Do not speak to any reporters until we do." Unknown number. "Hi Miss Chen, this is Rebecca from MSNBC. We'd love to have you on." Another. "Amara, this is Tyler from the New York Times." And another. "Miss Chen, this is David Morrison's office calling. Mr. Morrison is the CEO of Skyward Airlines. He'd like to speak with you personally." Amara stopped walking. Stood in the middle of the terminal while people flowed around her. She opened Twitter. Searched her own name. She was trending. Number 3 in the United States. Hashtag first class while black was number 1. The videos were everywhere. The businessman's version. The woman from 2A's version. The TikTok from 4A. Each showed the same scene from slightly different angles. Amara sitting there. Sarah refusing to serve her. The other passengers defending her. Captain Hayes intervening. The comments were overwhelming. "This is absolutely disgusting. Fire her immediately. I'm never flying Skyward again. She should sue for millions. This happens all the time. We just don't have video." Someone found the flight attendant's Facebook. Her name is Sarah Matthews. Within an hour of landing, the story was on CNN, on MSNBC, on Fox News, on every major news site. Tech entrepreneur denied service on flight. Viral video shows alleged discrimination on Skyward Airlines. Black billionaire humiliated in first class. The full story. By noon, Skyward Airlines had released a statement. "We are aware of an incident that occurred on Flight 447. We take all allegations of discrimination extremely seriously. The employee in question has been suspended pending investigation. We are reaching out to the passenger to apologize personally." By 2 p.m., Sarah Matthews's full name was trending. Her Facebook profile picture being shared everywhere. Screenshots of old posts. Her employment history. Everything. By 4 p.m., there were calls for boycotts. Hashtag boycott Skyward was trending. And through it all, Amara sat in her hotel room, supposed to be in meetings, instead watching her humiliation become a national news story. Her phone rang. A known number. She almost didn't answer. Miss Chen? This is David Morrison, CEO of Skyward Airlines. Amara sat up straight. I've seen the videos. I've read Captain Hayes's report. I've spoken with everyone involved. And I'm calling to apologize personally for what you experienced. His voice was somber. Genuine as far as Amara could tell. What happened to you was discriminatory. It was wrong. And it should never have happened. Sarah Matthews has been suspended immediately. We're conducting a full investigation. He paused. But I want to do more than that. We're implementing mandatory anti-bias training for all flight attendants. We're reviewing our protocols. We're creating a new system for reporting discrimination incidents. And we're bringing in outside consultants to audit our practices. That's good, Amara said. I'd also like to offer you lifetime complimentary first-class travel on Skyward. I know that doesn't fix what happened, but I hope you'll accept it as a gesture of how seriously we're taking this. Mr. Morrison, I appreciate the offer. But that's not the point. I know. The point is that I shouldn't have needed to be a billionaire to get a meal I paid for. The point is that Sarah Matthews looked at me and decided I didn't belong, and no amount of documentation could change her mind. The point is that this happens all the time, to people who don't have videos, who don't go viral, who don't have CEOs calling them. You're absolutely right. There was a long pause. Miss Chen, I also want to ask, would you be willing to consult with us? Help us understand where our systems fail passengers? We'll compensate you fairly for your time. I think we need voices like yours helping us build better policies. Amara thought about it. Part of her wanted to say no. Wanted to never think about Skyward Airlines again. But another part thought about all the other young black women who'd fly first class in the future. Who'd face the same assumptions. The same demands for proof. The same humiliation. I'll think about it, she said. Thank you. And Miss Chen, I looked you up. The Elevation Fund. The work you're doing investing in minority-owned businesses. It's important work. I'm sorry that you have to do it in a world that makes you prove your worth everywhere you go. Amara had heard that sentiment twice now. Once from Captain Hayes. Once from the CEO. Both well-meaning. Both missing the point. She didn't want their sympathy for having to prove herself. She wanted a world where she didn't have to prove herself at all. But she just said thank you and ended the call. By the next morning, the videos had accumulated over 10 million views. Sarah Matthews had resigned before she could be fired. Skyward Airlines had issued 3 separate statements. And Amara Chen was the face of a movement she'd never asked to lead. 3 months later, Amara was on another flight. Different airline. Los Angeles to Seattle. First class. She boarded wearing the same faded Howard University hoodie. The same jeans. The same worn Converse. The flight attendant greeted her at the door. Miss Chen, welcome aboard. It's an honor to have you flying with us today. The recognition in her eyes was immediate. She knew who Amara was. Had probably seen the videos. Water, please. The flight attendant brought it with a smile. Made sure Amara was comfortable. Asked if she needed anything else. Called her by name twice more during the flight. The service was perfect. Respectful. Everything it should be. But Amara knew why. She was being treated well now because she was famous. Because she'd gone viral. Because people had watched her humiliation and turned her into a symbol. Not because she deserved basic respect as a human being and a paying customer. And that realization was almost worse than the original discrimination. The videos had over 15 million views now. Hashtag First Class While Black had become a rallying cry. Amara had been interviewed by CNN, MSNBC, The New York Times. She'd been asked to speak at conferences about discrimination in travel. Had been invited to join advisory boards for 3 major airlines. She'd accepted the advisory board positions. Used her voice to push for real change. Helped design new training programs. reviewed policy changes. But she also knew that none of it would have happened if she hadn't been wealthy. If she hadn't been somebody. If those videos hadn't gone viral. Regular people faced the same discrimination every day and no one cared. No CEO called them. No airline offered them lifetime first-class travel. The only difference was that Amara was rich enough and viral enough to matter. And that truth sat heavy in her chest every time she flew. Amara Chen still flew first class. Still dressed in hoodies and jeans. Still kept her receipts and boarding passes and credit card statements, just in case. She still ran the Elevation Fund. Had now invested in 63 minority-owned startups. Combined valuation, over $1 billion. She still lived modestly. Still drove her old Honda. Still believed that wealth wasn't worth having if you didn't use it to lift others up. But she also knew that she lived in a world where respect required proof. Where dignity required documentation. Where belonging required being famous enough that people knew your name. And she hated that. Hated that the viral videos had made her safe while millions of others faced the same discrimination in silence. So she used her platform, used her voice, used her money, pushed for change in every room she entered. But she also knew that real change was slow. That bias ran deep. That one viral video couldn't fix a problem centuries in the making. All she could do was keep flying, keep fighting, keep proving that she belonged everywhere she'd paid to be. And hope that someday, maybe her daughter's generation wouldn't have to prove it at all. If this story moved you, if it made you think, if it made you angry or determined to do better, then subscribe to this channel right now. Because these stories matter. These voices matter. And we're going to keep telling them. What's one thing you can do to challenge your own biases? Really think about it. Then share in the comments. Let's have a real conversation. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.